Hello everyone and welcome back to another math video. Today we're going to be talking about trig ratios, the sine, cosine, and tangent. So similar to the problems you see up on the screen here. Just a reminder, this is the normal version. If you want the speedrun version, where we go through it pretty quickly, I'll link that in the description below. For your Ricasso Recap, you should already know how to solve the Pythagorean theorem, and you should know how to reduce fractions, or have a calculator that can help you with that. If you want refreshers on these two topics, there'll be videos in the description below. All right, new lesson starts now. Here we go. So we have a right triangle. Okay, you can use sine, cosine, and tangent for right triangles. And the sine, we're going to start with sine, is generally abbreviated SIN, sin, okay? And then it's always followed by an angle. So for example, it will never be the right angle, at least not in right now. And then it'll be like the sine of B. So the sine of B, so you look from the B's perspective and you say, okay, directly across or opposite the B is 30. So this is the opposite side. Across from the right angle is always the hypotenuse, always, which leaves the adjacent side. Okay, and adjacent just means like right next to. Okay, so it's right next to the angle B, and it's not the hypotenuse. So the definition of sine, sine is the opposite side over the hypotenuse, always. So the sine of angle B is the opposite side, 30, over the hypotenuse side, which is 34. This can be reduced by 2, which leaves you with 15 over 17 as your final answer. All right, here's our cool clock for today, which means that it's time for you to practice what you just learned. Go ahead and pause the video and try these two problems on your own. And when you're ready, you can unpause the video and we'll check your answers. Okay, now that you've had time to work these problems, let's check your solutions. Okay, for the first problem, should have just gotten 12 over 13, can't be reduced. And for the second problem, should have gotten 35 over 37 after reducing. All right, so that is the sine. Now let's talk about the cosine. Cosine, which is generally abbreviated COS. And again, let's pick a letter here. I guess we'll go from Q's perspective. So the cosine of Q. The definition of cosine is the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. All right, so from Q, this is the opposite, this is the adjacent, this is the hypotenuse. All right, we don't know the hypotenuse. We need the hypotenuse to do the cosine. So this is where we have to use the Pythagorean theorem. We should know how to do that, so I'm going to show the work over here. All right, so here is the work. Here's the Pythagorean theorem. Should be getting that C, the hypotenuse, is 52. So now we can do the cosine of Q is the adjacent side, which is 48, over the hypotenuse, which is 52. This can be reduced to 12 over 13. All right, so cosine is done. All right, time to practice. Go ahead and pause the video, try these two on your own. When you're ready, unpause and we'll check your answers. Okay, now that you've had time to work these problems, let's check your solutions. Okay, for the first problem, here is the answer. The cosine of angle G is 8 over 17. And for the second problem, had to do the Pythagorean theorem to get the adjacent side, but should have gotten 28 over 53. All right, the last trig ratio that we're going to talk about is the tangent. Okay, tangent, which is generally abbreviated to tan. So like if we're talking about the tan of Z, the tangent of Z. So tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. The opposite over the adjacent. So once again, if we're looking at Z, we're going to need to do the Pythagorean theorem. So after you've solved the Pythagorean theorem, you get this side is equal to 48. And we said that the tangent is so we're looking at the tangent of Z, which is the opposite. So opposite over the adjacent side. This is your hypotenuse. So that would be 48 over 20, which most certainly can be reduced. 24 over 10 can be reduced again. 12 over 5. Final answer. Let's fix that, make it look a little better. All right. Time to practice. Go ahead and try these two problems on your own. When ready, unpause, and we'll check your answers. Okay, now that you've had time to work these problems, let's check your solutions. Okay, for the first problem, you should have gotten 12 over 5. And for the second problem, okay, after doing the Pythagorean theorem, should have gotten 30 over 16, which can be reduced to 15 over 8. Final answer. Lastly, a way to remember sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent, tangent is opposite. So there are two ways. One is remember SohCahToa. Okay, that's one word to remember the trig ratio, SohCahToa. And then some phrases. Some old horse, so sine is opposite over hypotenuse, came hopping, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse through our alley. Okay, that's tangent. Or I like this one a little better because I think it's funnier. Some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. All right, that is it for today. I hope you all have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.